You think your faction winning would solve everything? Think again. The galaxy's been locked in endless war for 10,000 years, and every faction thinks they're the solution. But here's the problem. Victory for anyone means nightmare for everyone else. And in most cases, victory means nightmare for the winners too. This is Warhammer 40k, where even winning is just a different flavor of horror. Let's break down what happens when each faction actually wins. Spoiler alert, nobody gets a happy ending. Except maybe the orcs. The Imperium of Man Victory. So, the Imperium finally wins. Humanity stands alone, dominant across a million worlds. The Emperor's vision realized at last. Except the religious empire part, that was for sure not part of his vision. Sounds great, right? Here's what that actually looks like. First, understand what the Imperium is. It's not a government. It's a decay machine wrapped in religious fanaticism and held together with paperwork. The Administratum, the bureaucratic organization running imperial logistics, takes centuries to process simple requests. Entire planets get taxed for wars that ended millennia ago. The system worked barely when the Emperor was conscious and guiding things. He's been a corpse on a throne for 10,000 years, kept alive by sacrificing 1,000 psychers daily. That's not a functional system. That's a nightmare running on momentum. The Imperium wins means every threat is gone. Chaos retreats into the warp. Tyranids get exterminated, at least those present in the galaxy. Necrons go back to sleep or are completely wrecked, very unlikely. Orcs stop being a problem somehow. Tau get crushed. Eldar fade into extinction. That's billions of dead enemies, which means the Imperium just freed up its entire military-industrial complex with nothing to fight. Here's what happens next. The Imperial Guard, which fields trillions of soldiers, needs enemies to justify existence. Regiments get recalled, but there's nowhere for them to go. Most guardsmen come from hive worlds, overpopulated nightmare cities, where billions live in industrial squalor. These soldiers have known nothing but war. Average guardsman life expectancy is 15 hours of frontline combat. The ones who survive years become career soldiers with no other skills. Without external threats, the Imperium turns inward. It always does. The Adeptus Arbites, the Imperial police force, start enforcing laws that haven't been updated in millennia. Suddenly, that minor heresy you committed by praying wrong gets investigated. That tax discrepancy from 500 years ago, time to pay up, with interest compounded across centuries. The ecclesiarchy, the imperial church, explodes in power. With no aliens to burn, they focus on internal purity. The age of apostasy happens again, except worse, because now there's no distraction. Remember, this is the same organization that declared a man named Van Dyer leader and watched him go insane with power, eventually starting civil wars that killed billions. The only thing that stopped him was the Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle who executed him. But that was when external threats existed, to keep the Imperium somewhat unified. The Space Marines, the Emperor's genetically enhanced super soldiers, face an identity crisis. These warrior monks were created for eternal war. Each chapter maintains its own culture, traditions, and recruitment worlds. Without enemies, what's their purpose? Some chapters might integrate into Imperial society as protectors. Most won't. Space Marines aren't normal humans. They're 8 feet tall, psychologically conditioned for violence, and live for centuries. They're weapons, not peacekeepers. Chapters start fighting each other over doctrine, honor, or perceived slights. The Imperium has about 1,000 Space Marine chapters, each with roughly 1,000 Marines. That's a million super soldiers with nothing to fight but potentially each other. Some remain loyal to the Imperium's central authority, others decide their way is the right way. The 41st millennium is full of examples of Space Marines going rogue for the right reasons and causing disasters. The Astral Knights sacrifice their entire chapter, destroying a Necron world engine. Noble, sure, but they're gone now. The Marines Malevolent are technically loyal, but commit war crimes constantly. The Flame Falcons got declared heretics for spontaneously combusting. These are the loyal chapters. Imagine what happens when they disagree without external pressure to unite them. The Mechanicus, the tech priest organization that maintains all Imperial technology, stops sharing. They're already secretive and paranoid. Without Xenos tech to reverse engineer or forge worlds to defend, they focus on their own research, which means they definitely start building things the Imperium banned. Artificial intelligence, for one. The Men of Iron, rebellious AI that nearly destroyed humanity during the dark age of technology around M25, are why AI is forbidden. But Mechanicus tech priests think they're smarter than their ancestors. They're not. Someone builds a better computer, it wakes up, and suddenly humanity's fighting robots again. The Inquisition, the secret police investigating heresy, Xenos, and demons, doesn't disband. They expand. With no external threats, they turn inward with religious fervor. Every Inquisitor has absolute authority. No oversight, no appeals, just suspicion and execution. The Inquisition has multiple factions that already disagree on methodology. Puritans believe in strict adherence to doctrine. Radicals believe desperate times justify extreme measures, like binding demons or using Xenos weapons. These factions barely tolerate each other when chaos cults threaten to corrupt planets. Without external threats, they start purging each other. The general population doesn't see improvement. Remember, most Imperial citizens live in hive cities where they work factory jobs until they die. The lower hive levels are nightmare zones where gangs rule and recycled corpses become food. That doesn't change with victory. If anything, it gets worse. Without war production demands, factories shut down, unemployment skyrockets, more people means more mouths to feed, and the Imperium's supply chains are already stretched impossibly thin. Starvation becomes widespread. Food riots break out. The Arbates crack down with lethal force, which creates more unrest, which requires more crackdowns. The cycle spirals until entire hive cities collapse into civil war. Governors call for military intervention, but the Imperial Guard is demobilized and scattered. Local PDF, planetary defense forces, try maintaining order, but they're outgunned by desperate billions. The Imperium's victory creates a power vacuum at every level. Without enemies, the factions that make up the Imperium start competing for dominance. The Administratum tries controlling everything through bureaucracy. The Ecclesiarchy wants theocratic rule. The Mechanicus wants technological supremacy. The military wants martial authority. The Inquisition wants ideological purity. None of them will compromise. By the 42nd millennium, assuming victory happens in late M41, the Imperium fractures into regional powers. Some systems stay loyal to Terra, others follow charismatic leaders or Space Marine chapters. The Tau tried this on a small scale and created the Tau Empire through expansion and annexation. The Imperium doing it creates catastrophe because the scale is 1,000,000 worlds instead of 100. Without the unifying threat of Xenos or chaos, the Imperium collapses into civil war again. Because it's happened before. The Horus Heresy split the Imperium in half and killed trillions. The Age of Apostasy caused system-wide rebellions. The 13th Black Crusade nearly destroyed Cadia, the fortress world guarding the Eye of Terror. Each time, external threats forced reunification. Without those threats, there's nothing stopping complete fragmentation. The Emperor remains on the throne, a corpse god burning through psychics to stay barely alive. Except now victory means the Imperium has breathing room to try fixing that. Radical factions within the Mechanicus or Inquisition attempt reviving him fully. Every attempt fails catastrophically because nobody understands the technology or the Emperor's psychic nature. One attempt goes wrong, the Astronomicon fails, and suddenly warp travel becomes impossible. The Imperium's million worlds become isolated, each facing slow death alone. Or maybe the Emperor actually wakes up. That's worse. He looks at what his Imperium became, a religious dystopia worshipping him as a god when he explicitly rejected divinity, and he's horrified. He might try fixing it. That means dismantling the ecclesiarchy, reorganizing the government, and probably purging everyone who corrupted his vision, which is basically everyone. The ensuing civil war makes the Horus Heresy look like a minor disagreement. The Imperium winning means humanity survives, sure, but survival isn't victory. It's just Yan Huan delaying the inevitable collapse while internal rot continues unchecked. Because the Imperium isn't sustainable. It never was. It's been dying for 10,000 years, held together by external threats that force cooperation. Remove those threats and the whole rotten structure comes crashing down. And that's the optimistic scenario where humanity wins cleanly. Let's talk about what happens when the actual nightmares win. Chaos victory. Chaos wins means reality ends. Not metaphorically. Literally. The material universe gets consumed by the warp and everyone suffers eternally. Like a Warhammer fantasy type of ending where everyone dies. Chaos isn't an army or empire. It's a reflection of emotion given form through the warp, the alternate dimension that underlies real space. Every feeling, thought, and emotion across the galaxy feeds the warp. Enough concentrated emotion creates warp entities. The four chaos gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, are the biggest and oldest, formed from war, ambition, despair, and excess respectively. Here's the problem with chaos. It doesn't want to rule the galaxy, it wants to consume it. The chaos gods exist in the warp, but their power extends into reality through followers, demons, and warp rifts. Like, they've been doing this for millennia, trying to break through and corrupt everything. The Eye of Terror, a massive warp rift where reality doesn't function, is what happens when they partially succeed. It formed 10,000 years ago when the Elders' depravity created Slaanesh and tore a hole in reality. Chaos victory means the Great Rift, the galaxy-splitting warp storm created in M41 during the 13th Black Crusade, expands until it consumes everything. The materium, the physical universe, gets swallowed by the immaterium, the warp. When that happens, physics stops working, time becomes meaningless, space is subjective, causality is optional. For normal people, this is worse than death. Death means your soul enters the warp and dissipates or gets consumed. Quick, relatively. Chaos victory means your soul gets claimed by one of the chaos gods and tortured eternally. Because that's what demons do. They feed on emotion, and suffering creates strong emotions. Let's break down what each chaos god does to their victims. Khorne, the blood god, god of war and murder, claims souls who die violently or worship him. These souls become fuel for his demons or get reincarnated as bloodletters, lesser demons forced to kill eternally. You're aware the whole time, trapped in a body that only exists to spill blood. The rage never stops, the killing never stops. You're a prisoner in your own skull, screaming while your hands tear apart everything you ever loved. Tzeentch, the changer of ways, god of magic and ambition, claims scholars, psychers, and sorcerers. Your soul becomes part of his infinite schemes. He might turn you into a horror, a demon made of screaming faces, or trap you in a crystal maze where you solve impossible puzzles for eternity. Every solution creates more questions. Every answer reveals deeper mysteries. You're never free, just eternally confused and desperate for understanding that never comes. Nurgle, the Plague Father, god of disease and despair, claims those who succumb to his plagues. Your soul becomes a plague bearer, a demon that counts diseases and spreads pestilence. you're rotting forever, feeling every maggot and lesion, but you can't die because you're already dead. Nurgle thinks you're happy. He genuinely believes his gifts are blessings. You're not happy. You're screaming inside a corpse that won't stop moving. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, god of excess and sensation, claims anyone who pursued pleasure beyond reason. This includes most of the Elder race whose souls Slaanesh hunts eternally. Your soul gets subjected to every sensation amplified beyond endurance. Pleasure and pain blur together until you can't distinguish between them. You're used as a plaything for demons who've perfected torture for 10,000 years. Eventually you become a daemonette or other Slaaneshi demon forced to seduce and corrupt others into the same fate. But that's just individual damnation. Chaos winning means entire planets get corrupted. When the warp fully breaches into reality, everything changes. Physics becomes suggestion. Gravity might work sideways. Time loops back on itself. Space folds into impossible geometries. People watching this happen go insane trying to comprehend what they're seeing. Demons pour through in infinite numbers, not the limited manifestations that appeared during warp storms or cult summonings. Unlimited demons, as many as the chaos gods want to send. Bloodthirsters, greater demons of Khorne standing 20 feet tall with axes that cut through reality. Lords of Change, greater demons of Tzeentch who rewrite fate with a thought. Great unclean ones, greater demons of Nurgle whose presence spreads disease that kills millions. Keepers of secrets, greater demons of Slaanesh who corrupt through beauty and horror combined. Every population center gets overrun instantly. Not fighting, just conversion. Demons don't need to kill you, they corrupt you. One touch from a great unclean one and you're infected with Nurgle's rot, turning into a plague bearer over weeks of agony. One whisper from a Lord of Change and you're convinced serving Tzeentch is your destiny. One glance from a Keeper of Secrets and you're addicted to sensations only Slaanesh provides. Bloodthirsters don't bother corrupting, they just kill everything until nothing's left. The Chaos Space Marines, traitor legions who betrayed the Emperor during the Horus Heresy, rule as warlords over corrupted worlds, except they're not in charge. The Chaos Gods are. The Marines are just particularly powerful slaves. Abaddon the Despoiler, War Master of Chaos and leader of the Black Legion, spent 10,000 years launching Black Crusades, trying to break Cadia and expand the Eye of Terror. He succeeded on the 13th attempt, destroying Cadia and creating the Great Rift. If Chaos wins, Abaddon gets everything he wanted, then discovers the Chaos Gods never intended to share power. They use him until he's no longer useful, then discard him like every other pawn. The Emperor, still on the Golden Throne, becomes a psychic beacon drawing demon attention. Terra, humanity's homeworld, gets sieged by every demon in the warp simultaneously. The Imperial Palace, a fortress continent larger than most countries, holds out for a while, but eventually the walls break. Demons flood in. The Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's personal guards and the most elite warriors in the Imperium, fight to the last man. They kill thousands of demons each before falling. It doesn't matter. More demons come. When demons reach the throne room, they can't destroy the Emperor. He's too powerful, even as a corpse. Instead, they corrupt the Astronomicon. The psychic beacon guiding Imperial ships becomes a corruption signal. Every navigator using it to plot warp jumps gets driven insane or possessed. Every ship in the warp gets lost or consumed by demons. The entire Imperial Navy, millions of ships carrying billions of personnel, dies screaming across the galaxy. The remaining populations try surviving on their isolated worlds. Can't. Chaos corruption spreads through everything. Plants mutate into carnivorous monsters. Animals become demon spawn. Water becomes poison. Air becomes miasma. The planet itself turns hostile because the warp doesn't distinguish between living and non-living matter. everything gets corrupted. Some populations embrace chaos willingly. Better to serve than suffer, they think. They're wrong. Serving chaos is suffering. You're just suffering with false hope that obedience earns reward. It doesn't. Chaos gods don't reward loyalty, they consume it. The Necrons, soulless machines immune to chaos corruption, try fighting back. Can't. Demons are warp entities. Material weapons don't work on them. Gauss weapons disintegrate matter, but demons aren't matter. They're emotional energy given form. The Necrons built the pylons, massive devices that suppress warp activity specifically to fight chaos. They're scattered across the galaxy, most damaged or destroyed. The remaining ones get overrun because there's too many demons and not enough pylons. The Tyranids, the galaxy-devouring alien swarm, can't adapt to chaos. They tried. Hive Fleet Kronos evolved specifically to fight chaos, developing anti-psyker organisms and warp-resistant armor. It wasn't enough. The Tyranids are biological, which means corruptible. Demons infect the hive mind, the psychic gestalt controlling all Tyranids. Suddenly, you've got Chaos Tyranids, which is worse than either separately. The hive mind goes insane, the swarm loses coordination, and demons ride the biological monsters like meat puppets. The orcs, fungal warriors who live for fighting, think chaos is the best thing ever. Infinite enemies, constant war, getting bigger and stronger forever. They're having fun until they realize chaos doesn't work on orc logic. Orcs generate a psychic field that makes what they believe reality. They believe their guns work, so guns work. They believe red vehicles go faster, so they do. Chaos doesn't care about belief. It cares about emotion. Khorne starts claiming orc souls, which orcs didn't know they had. Suddenly, orcs are dying permanently instead of reincarnating through spores. The WAG energy, the collective orc psychic field, gets corrupted. Orcs start fighting each other more than usual, except now it's not fun. It's horrifying because they're losing themselves to rage they can't control. The Tau, the youngest race with idealistic expansion plans, get corrupted fastest. Their ideology is the greater good, a collectivist philosophy about unity and progress. Sounds noble. Tzeentch loves it. He whispers ambitions and schemes to ethereals, the Tau ruling caste, turning their expansion into corruption campaigns. The Tau thought they were immune to chaos because they have weak souls. They're not. Weak souls just means chaos uses different methods. Instead of possession, it's subtle manipulation. The greater good becomes the greater corruption. The Elder, both Craftworld and Exodite, are doomed regardless. Their entire race is hunted by Slaanesh. When Chaos wins, Slaanesh claims every Elder soul instantly. The Craftworld's massive ships carrying billions of Eldar become floating tombs. The Infinity Circuit's psychic matrices storing Eldar souls after death shatter. Trillions of stored souls get consumed. The Eldar race, which dominated the galaxy for millions of years, ends in hours. The Dark Eldar, hiding in Komora within the Webway, thought they were safe. They're not. The Webway is separate from the Warp, sure, but it's not immune. Komora exists in a pocket dimension, but the boundaries between dimensions mean nothing when reality collapses. Demons pour through every crack. The Dark Eldar, who've been raiding real space for 10,000 years to feed their souls through torture, suddenly become the tortured. Slaanesh's demons find them especially delicious because Dark Eldar spent millennia thinking they were safe. The despair when they realize they're not is exquisite. By the end, assuming Chaos Victory plays out over centuries rather than instantly, the material universe is gone. Everything exists in the warp. Time is meaningless, so you might exist for eternity or a second. Space doesn't work, so you're everywhere and nowhere. You're aware of your suffering, but powerless to stop it. You're not alive, but you're not dead either. You're just fuel for gods that never get full. And that's chaos victory. Yeah, reality becomes hell, and everyone suffers forever. There's no resistance, no hope, no escape, just eternal torment. But at least with chaos, you're still somewhat yourself, even if corrupted. Let's talk about what happens when hunger wins. Tyranid Victory. The Tyranids win means all biomass in the galaxy gets consumed. Every planet becomes a lifeless rock. Every living thing becomes nutrients for the hive fleet. And you're aware the entire time you're being digested. The Tyranids aren't native to this galaxy. They came from outside, beyond the galactic rim, drawn by the Astronomican's psychic signal. That's right, humanity's greatest achievement, the beacon guiding ships through the warp, is also a dinner bell for space locusts. Here's what we know. The Tyranids are a galaxy-spanning organism controlled by the hive mind, a psychic gestalt consciousness linking every Tyranid creature. They travel in hive fleets, massive bioships numbering in millions. Each fleet contains billions of individual organisms, from tiny rippers to massive hierophants. They've been approaching for millennia, getting closer with each generation. The first recorded contact was in M41 with Hive Fleet Behemoth attacking the Eastern Fringe. The Imperium barely stopped it by sacrificing an entire Space Marine chapter and multiple Guard regiments. Then came Leviathan, then Kraken, then Kronos, each fleet bigger than the last, each one revealing new adaptations. Here's the horrifying part. What the galaxy's been fighting are just scouting fleets. The main Tyranid force is still coming. The hive fleets we've seen are test runs, probing defenses, and gathering genetic information. The full swarm is so massive it blots out stars. When Tyranids win, here's what happens. The main Tyranid force arrives, not hundreds of ships, trillions. They block out the galactic rim like a wave. The shadow in the warp, the psychic null zone Tyranids generate that blocks warp travel and communications, expands to cover entire segmentums. Suddenly, thousands of systems are cut off from the Astronomican. Ships can't travel, astropaths can't communicate. The Imperium loses coordination across half the galaxy instantly. The hive fleets divide by viable systems, planets with life get swarmed, barren rocks get ignored. The invasion follows a pattern perfected over countless galaxies. First, the vanguard organisms arrive. Gene stealers, infiltrator Tyranids that infect populations through genetic corruption. They've been seeding target worlds for decades, creating gene stealer cults that worship the coming hive fleet. When the fleet arrives, these cults rebel, sabotaging defenses and opening the gates. Then come the spores, millions of mycetic spores, organic drop pods containing warrior organisms rain from the sky. They impact with enough force to crater buildings. Inside each one are Tyranid swarms, termagants, hormagants, gene stealers. They attack everything simultaneously, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers. The initial assault breaks organized resistance. Planetary defense forces get swarmed. Local PDF fight desperately, but they're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. The guard regiments, if present, hold longer. Doesn't matter. More Tyranids keep coming. Stage 3 begins when the capillary towers deploy. These are massive biostructures that Tyranids build from corpses and local materials. They drill into the planet's crust and begin the absorption process. Digestive acids flood the biosphere. Oceans turn into enzyme soup. Forests dissolve, cities melt, everything organic breaks down into base components. Here's where it gets worse. The Tyranids don't just kill you, they recycle you. When a Tyranid organism dies, reclamation crews drag the corpse to digestion pools. The biomass gets broken down and reconstructed into new organisms. That process applies to enemies too. You get killed by a Tyranid warrior. Your body gets dragged to a pool. Your biomass becomes nutrients. Your genetic information gets analyzed. useful traits get incorporated into new organisms. That means every human, orc, eldar, or any other species the Tyranids consume contributes to the swarm. Kill 1 million Tyranids, they recycle those corpses into 2 million more. Plus, they've learned from how you killed them and adapted. The swarm gets stronger with every battle, while defenders get weaker. The hive mind learns continuously. Face plasma weapons, Tyranids evolve heat resistance, use poison gas, they adapt immunity, deploy tanks, they create armor-piercing bioweapons. There's no winning strategy because the enemy adapts faster than you can change tactics. By the time reinforcements arrive with new weapons, the Tyranids have already evolved counters. Planetary absorption takes months. The defenders fight desperately, but it's futile. The Tyranids don't need supply lines. They eat the dead. They don't have morale. They don't retreat. They don't negotiate. They just consume. When a planet is fully harvested, nothing remains. The oceans are gone. The atmosphere is stripped. The biomass is completely absorbed. The planet becomes a lifeless rock, unable to support life ever again. The Hive Fleet moves to the next target, now larger and stronger from consuming the previous world. Multiply this process by every life-bearing planet in the galaxy. Billions of worlds, quadrillions of lives, all consumed. The Imperium tries coordinated defense. The Imperial Navy engages hive fleets in space. Doesn't work. Tyranid bioships are organic vessels, kilometers long, with weapons that fire acidic projectiles or boarding organisms. They're tough enough to ram Imperial cruisers and tear them apart. The swarm tactics work in space too. 1 bioship for every Imperial vessel, but the Tyranids have millions. The Space Marines deploy chapter strength to critical worlds. They kill thousands of Tyranids each, but it's not enough. Chapters get annihilated. The Blood Angels lost most of their chapter defending Baal from Hive Fleet Leviathan. The sides of the Emperor got destroyed by Hive Fleet Kraken. The Lamenters, cursed with bad luck, got decimated by multiple Hive Fleets. These are humanity's finest warriors, and they're not enough. The Mechanicus tries their secret weapons. The Ordinatus, massive artillery pieces that can level cities. Effective against individual organisms, useless against the swarm. They build titans, god machines piloted by princeps. A warlord titan can kill thousands of Tyranids. There are millions. An imperator titan, the largest, can level entire armies. The Tyranids just bring bigger organisms. Hierophants, bio-titans that match imperator titans in size and surpass them in lethality. The Necrons try fighting back with their advanced technology. Gauss weapons work initially, then the Tyranids adapt, developing armor that regenerates faster than Gauss can disintegrate. The Necrons don't have biomass to consume, which helps, but Tyranids don't need to consume Necrons, they just need to outlast them. Necrons have finite numbers. Tyranids don't. The Orcs love it initially. Finally a proper fight. WAG energy surges as Orcs get bigger and stronger from constant warfare, but even Orcs can't outproduce Tyranids. Orcs reproduce through spores released when they die. Takes time for spores to grow into new Orcs. Tyranids recycle immediately. The Orcs lose through attrition, which has never happened before in their species history. The last Orcs go down fighting and screaming with joy, at least. The Tau try diplomacy first. Doesn't work. You can't negotiate with hunger. The hive mind doesn't want territory or resources or ideology. It wants food. The Tau are food. The Tau Empire, small compared to other factions, gets consumed in years. Their advanced battle suits and high technology mean nothing against infinite numbers and rapid adaptation. The Elder see their race ending for the second time. Slaanesh hunting their souls was bad enough. Now Tyranids consume their physical forms. The craft worlds try fleeing to webway sanctuaries. Some escape. Most get intercepted by hive ships. The Tyranids have been adapting to warp travel, creating organisms that can briefly enter the webway. When they do, nowhere is safe. The Dark Elder watch from Kamara as the galaxy gets consumed. They can't stop it. Their raids depend on finding populations to torture. No populations means no sustenance, means their souls get consumed by Slaanesh anyway. The Dark Elder face a choice between dying now or later. Some choose raids into the swarm, trying to capture Tyranids for torture. Discover that Tyranids don't generate psychic pain the way other species do. The suffering isn't satisfying. The Dark Elder slowly starve. The absorption continues for centuries. Planet after planet goes dark. Star systems become graveyards. Entire sectors fall silent. The Astronomicon still shines from Terra, but fewer ships use it because fewer ships exist. The Imperium's million worlds become thousands, then hundreds, then dozens. Terra holds out longest. The solar system has the most concentrated defenses in the galaxy. The Imperial Navy, the Adeptus Custodes, the Imperial Fist Chapter, multiple Titan legions, billions of soldiers, they all die fighting. The Tyranids don't rush Terra, they systematically consume every other planet first, growing stronger with each meal. When they finally assault Terra, the Hive fleet is so massive it darkens the sun. The siege lasts years. Every street becomes a battlefield. Every building a fortress. Trillions die defending humanity's birthplace. The Emperor, still on the Golden Throne, can't help. He's barely holding the Astronomicon together. When the throne room falls, the Custodes make their last stand. They kill millions of Tyranids before being overwhelmed. The Astronomicon dies when the Emperor does. The beacon goes dark. Every human in the galaxy feels it. A psychic scream as humanity's greatest hope ends. The remaining Imperial holdouts lose coordination completely. Each planet faces the swarm alone. By the end, the Milky Way galaxy is lifeless. Every ocean drained. Every forest consumed. Every city dissolved. The Tyranids gather in orbit, processing the final biomass. Then the hive mind looks outward. Toward other galaxies, the swarm moves on, leaving behind a dead galaxy as testament to unstoppable hunger. And the worst part? You are conscious during absorption. The Tyranids don't kill quickly unless you're lucky. Most humans get captured alive, paralyzed by neurotoxins, and digested slowly. You feel yourself being broken down. Your nerves dissolve last, so you experience maximum suffering. The hive mind learns better from conscious prey because terror enhances memory. Your last moments are absolute agony, knowing your death feeds the thing that killed you. That's Tyranid Victory. Not conquest, not corruption, just hunger consuming everything until nothing remains. Let's talk about the faction that's already dead winning. Necron Victory. The Necrons win means the galaxy becomes a tomb. Every living thing gets exterminated. Every star goes dark. Existence itself gets turned off like a light switch. The Necrons are the galaxy's oldest race. They were organic once. 60 million years ago, called the Necron tier, short-lived due to radiation from their terrible sun. They envied the old ones, ancient beings who created the Eldar and Orcs. The Necron tier went to war, lost badly, then made a deal with ancient star gods called the Khitan. The deal was immortality, the cost was their souls. The Khitan transferred Necron tier consciousness into living metal bodies. They became immortal machines. Then they realized what they'd lost: emotions, sensation, life itself. The Necron tier became Necrons, and they hated existence. They fought the old ones again, this time winning, and they killed most of the Khitan, shattering them into fragments. Then they went to sleep in tomb worlds across the galaxy, waiting for conditions right to reclaim what they'd lost. Now they're waking up. And they're angry. Necron Victory means the Silent King. The Necron's ancient ruler successfully implements his plan. Reunify the Necron dynasties, exterminate all living races, reclaim the galaxy, then somehow reverse biotransference and become flesh again. That last part won't work, but the Necrons don't know that yet. Here's what happens. The tomb worlds fully wake, not the scattered awakening happening in M41, but coordinated revival across the galaxy. Billions of Necron warriors rise from stasis. Necron technology is so advanced it makes everything else look primitive. Gauss weapons disintegrate matter molecule by molecule. Resurrection protocols bring destroyed Necrons back within hours. Quantum shields deflect almost any attack. Inertialess drives move ships faster than anything except warp travel. The Necrons begin systematic extermination. They don't hate the current races personally, they just need them gone. Living beings sustain the warp through their emotions. The warp empowers chaos and made the war in heaven, the ancient conflict that devastated the galaxy, possible. The Necrons want to seal the warp permanently. That requires eliminating all sentient life. They start with chaos. The Necrons built the pylons, massive obelisks that suppress warp activity, specifically to fight the Khitan and chaos. They reactivate every pylon across the galaxy simultaneously. The warp starts closing. Chaos demons get weaker. Warp storms dissipate. The Eye of Terror shrinks. The Great Rift closes. Chaos loses its foothold in reality. The Chaos Gods panic. They throw everything into breaking the pylons. Doesn't work. Necron technology predates the current galaxy's races by millions of years. It's incorruptible. Demons can't possess machines without souls. Chaos corruption can't spread through unliving metal. The pylons keep multiplying as more tomb worlds wake and build more. Within centuries, the warp is sealed across most of the galaxy. Chaos effectively dies. The gods still exist in the warp, but they can't influence real space anymore. Their demon armies can't manifest. Their corrupted followers lose power. The Chaos Space Marines, traitor legions that fought the Imperium for 10,000 years, become regular Marines again. Confused, angry, but mortal. The Necrons kill them all. Next, the Necrons target the Tyranids. The hive fleets enter the galaxy, see billions of Necron warriors, and try consuming them. Can't. Necrons aren't organic, there's no biomass to absorb. The Tyranids adapt, creating anti-vehicle organisms. Doesn't matter. Gauss weapons disintegrate biological matter faster than the Tyranids can regenerate. For every Necron destroyed, resurrection protocols bring them back. For every Tyranid killed, that's biomass lost. The hive mind tries different tactics, boarding actions to disable ships. The Necrons just activate auto defenses and vent borders into space. Overwhelming numbers. The Necrons have infinite patience and ammunition. The Tyranids eventually consume all available biomass in the galaxy, find no more food, and starve. The hive fleets become floating graveyards. The hive mind, dependent on biomass to sustain itself, dies. The Imperium fights back desperately. Doesn't work. The Imperial Guard's numbers mean nothing against enemies that resurrect. Space Marines' skill and power armor can't stop Gauss weapons. Titans fall to Necron heavy destroyers. The Imperial Navy gets shredded by Necron tomb ships that phase through solid matter. Terra becomes the final stronghold. The Necrons siege it like the Tyranids would, except efficiently. No wasted effort, just systematic bombardment until defenses collapse. The Emperor, still on the throne, dies when the palace falls. The Astronomicon goes dark. The Imperium loses coordination. The remaining worlds fall one by one. The Orks put up the best fight. They love fighting, and Necrons provide endless opponents. But Orks need death to reproduce through spores. Necrons disintegrate Orks completely, including spores. The Ork population slowly declines as no new Orks grow to replace losses. Eventually, the last Ork dies swinging, and the species ends. The Tau try diplomacy, offering to surrender if the Necrons spare them. The Necrons refuse, not out of cruelty, just pragmatism. All sentient life must end. The Tau fight anyway, using advanced technology and mobile warfare. The Necrons match them easily. Tau battlesuits get shredded by Gauss weapons. Tau mobility means nothing against enemies that teleport. The Tau Empire falls in years. The Eldar are already dying. The race has been doomed since Slaaneish's birth. The craft worlds try fleeing to the webway. The Necrons invade the webway. It's their technology anyway, built by the old ones, using Necron innovations. The Necrons know every passage. The craft worlds get hunted down and destroyed. The Elder race ends. The Dark Elder and Kamarra face the same fate. The Necrons breach Kamarag's defenses, slaughter every Dark Elder, and move on. No torture, no cruelty, just efficiency. The Dark Elder, who've existed for 10,000 years, thinking themselves untouchable, die in hours. Within a millennium, all sentient life in the galaxy is extinct. The Necrons verify this through systematic sweeps. Sensor networks detect any biological signatures. Automated defenses eliminate anything that emerges. The galaxy becomes silent. Then the Necrons implement Phase 2. The Breath of the Gods, a Necron superweapon, begins firing at stars. Stars provide energy for life. No stars means no life can ever return. The weapon travels across the galaxy, extinguishing stars one by one. Solar systems go dark. Planets freeze. The galaxy becomes cold and lifeless. Meanwhile, the Necrons work on reversing biotransference, except they can't. The process that turned them into machines was one way. The C'tan designed it that way deliberately. The Necron souls were consumed. You can't restore what doesn't exist. Necron cryptechs, their scientists, try everything: cloning, soul binding, possession of living bodies. None of it works. They're stuck as machines forever. The Silent King realizes they've doomed themselves. They exterminated all life, sealed the warp, darkened the stars, and gained nothing. They're immortal machines in a dead galaxy with no purpose. Some Necron lords go into stasis again, hoping future civilizations will emerge and they can try biotransference differently. Others continue existence, maintaining the tomb worlds and ensuring nothing disturbs the silence. By the 42nd millennium, the galaxy is a tomb. No life, no light, no sound, just billions of empty worlds orbiting dead stars watched over by machines that can't die and can't live. The Necrons won. Victory is eternal emptiness. And somewhere in the dying warp, the Chaos Gods slowly fade. Without sentient life generating emotions, they have no sustenance. Khorne weakens without war. Tzeentch fades without ambition. Nurgle diminishes without despair. Slaanesh starves without excess. They don't die, gods can't die, but they sleep, dreaming of galaxies with life to corrupt, forever unable to reach them. That's Necron Victory. Perfect success. Absolute emptiness. The galaxy becomes what the Necrons are, dead but unable to rest. Now let's talk about the faction that thinks fighting is the whole point: winning. Ork Victory. The Orks win means eternal war, not metaphorically, actually eternal. The entire galaxy becomes an endless, joyful, brutal battlefield where nothing ever stops fighting. The Orks are weapons that forgot their weapons. The old ones created them during the war in heaven as soldiers to fight the Necrons and C'tan. They were called the Krork then, organized and intelligent. The war ended, the old ones died, and the Krork devolved into Orks, fungal warriors who live purely for fighting. Orks are perfect soldiers biologically. They reproduce through spores released when they die. Any planet with dead orcs eventually grows more. They get bigger and stronger the more they fight. They generate psychic energy called WAG that makes what they believe reality. Red vehicles go faster because orcs think they do. Guns work because orcs believe they work. This racial psychic field means orcs can use weapons that physically shouldn't function. Orc society is brutal but simple. The biggest orc is in charge. You get big by fighting. You stay big by keep fighting. Orcs organize into clans based on fighting preference. Goths like close combat. Bad moons like big guns. Evil sons like speed. They fight each other constantly for dominance and fun. Occasionally, a war boss big enough rises to unite multiple clans. This creates a WAG, a massive orc migration / invasion that crashes through star systems like a green tide. The biggest WAG in history was led by the Beast, an orc so massive it approached the size of the Krork. The Beast almost destroyed the Imperium in M32 before being killed. Ork Victory means a war boss successfully unites every orc in the galaxy. This has never happened. Orcs are too fractious and independent, but imagine it does. A war boss big enough and strong enough that every orc acknowledges him as the ultimate war boss. The resulting WAG energy would be so powerful it warps reality. Here's what happens. The Great WAG begins. Billions of orcs unite under one boss. They rampage through the galaxy, seeking opponents. The Imperium mobilizes everything. Doesn't matter. The orcs keep coming. For every orc killed, spores create more. The Guard throws regiments into the fight. They die. More orcs grow. Space Marine chapters engage. They kill thousands of orcs each. More grow bigger and stronger from the fighting. The WAG energy reaches critical mass. Reality starts bending. Orc beliefs become more potent. Death Dreads, Orc Walkers, become as tough as Imperial Titans because orcs believe they are. Shootas, orc guns, become as deadly as bolters. Force fields generated by mechs, orc mechanics, stop tank shells because orcs think they should. The orcs fight everyone simultaneously. Chaos tries corrupting them. Doesn't work. Khorne likes orcs because they fight constantly, but orcs don't worship Khorne. They worship Gork and Mork, their own brutal and cunning gods. These orc gods are warp entities created by the collective orc psyche. They're powerful enough to fight off chaos corruption. The Tyranids invade orc-controlled space. The orcs couldn't be happier. Infinite opponents that keep coming. The fighting is glorious. The Tyranids try consuming orc biomass. Works initially, then they realize orcs reproduce faster through spores than Tyranids can adapt. For every orc consumed, 3 more grow from spores. The Tyranids waste resources trying to cleanse planets that keep generating more orcs. Eventually, the hive mind calculates that orc space is non-viable and redirects fleets elsewhere. The orcs follow, turning the entire conflict into a running battle across the galaxy. The Necrons try exterminating the orcs. Can't. Orcs are too widespread. Every planet the Necrons cleanse has orc spores in the soil. Years later, orcs grow back. The Necrons would need to sterilize every planet in the galaxy simultaneously. They can't. The orcs keep returning, and the Tau try diplomacy and integration. Some orc clans accept temporarily. They like the Tau's guns and technology, but orcs can't not fight. Eventually, the orcs turn on the Tau, killing them for fun. The greater good means nothing to orcs. Only fighting matters. The Eldar fight desperately. Their Farseers predict that Ork Victory means the end of all civilization. They're right. The craft worlds engage orc fleets. Initial victories, then more orcs come. And more, and more. The Eldar can't win through attrition. They have limited numbers. Orcs have unlimited. The craft worlds retreat, abandoning systems to the green tide. The Dark Eldar think raiding orc territory is profitable. It's not. Orcs love being raided because it means fighting. The Dark Eldar capture slaves, which just spreads orc spores to Kamoreg. Orcs start growing in the Dark City. The Dark Eldar frantically purge them, but orc spores are insidious. The Dark City becomes infested. Chaos watches the Great WAG with interest. Khorne appreciates the endless violence, but orcs don't spread corruption or worship chaos. They just fight. The Chaos Gods realize Ork Victory helps them because orc emotions are simple and strong. War generates energy for Khorne. Ambition for dominance feeds Tzeentch. The inevitable decay feeds Nurgle. The excess of violence feeds Slaanesh. The Chaos Gods let the orcs win because it strengthens the warp. Terra falls, not through siege. The orcs just show up looking for the biggest fight. They hear Terra is the most defended planet, so they attack for the challenge. Billions of orcs land. The Imperial defenders kill millions. Doesn't matter. More keep coming. The palace walls break. The throne room gets breached. The orcs kill the Custodes in glorious combat. the Emperor dies, the Orks loot the throne. The Orks don't conquer territory. They don't build empires, they just fight everything everywhere forever. Eventually, the only opponents left are other Orks. That's fine. Orks love fighting Orks almost as much as fighting anyone else. The galaxy becomes one massive battlefield divided into Ork territories, with war bosses leading endless wag against each other. Infrastructure collapses, planets become battlegrounds, civilization ends. The only building that happens is Orks creating more weapons and vehicles for fighting. The only agriculture is squigs, Ork livestock that grows fast and breeds quickly. Everything else serves war. Billions of years pass, the Orks keep fighting, they don't know why, they don't care. Fighting is the point. Nothing else matters. The galaxy becomes an Orkoid ecosystem where conflict is the only constant. Stars die, planets crumble, Orks keep fighting in the ruins. Eventually, entropy wins, stars burn out, energy dissipates, the universe approaches heat death. The Orks keep fighting in the darkness until there's nothing left to fight with. The last Ork dies fighting another Ork over the last functional weapon, laughing the entire time. That's Ork Victory. Eternal war. Absolute chaos. Everything reduced to fighting for fighting's sake until reality itself ends. Some would call that the perfect Warhammer 40k ending. Well, there you have it. Every faction winning leads to nightmare. Imperium Victory means internal collapse in civil war. Chaos Victory means reality becomes hell. Tyranid Victory means everything gets eaten. Necron Victory means eternal, lifeless silence. Ork Victory means endless fighting until nothing remains. There are other factions with their own nightmare scenarios. Tau Victory means forced collectivism and eventual chaos corruption. Craftworld Elder Victory means genocidal xenophobia and slow extinction. Dark Elder Victory means the galaxy becomes a torture farm. Gene Stealer Cult's Victory leads to Tyranid Victory anyway. The galaxy is locked in eternal stalemate because every victory condition is unacceptable. The Imperium endures because enemies force unity. Chaos persists because emotion exists. Tyranids keep coming because hunger is eternal. Necrons keep waking because death can't die. Orks keep fighting because that's their nature. There is no victory in Warhammer 40k. There's only war, and the war is eternal. Just like the setting promises, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and winning doesn't change that. It just changes who's suffering and how. Thanks for reading, and remember, every faction thinks they're the solution. None of them are. They're all just different apocalypses waiting to happen.